I think we're live. We are live. Okay. There's at least me. And special guest on the way. He is waiting in queue. So, Professor Walker is going to join us momentarily, but going to get a couple of things out of the way first, and then we'll kind of bring him in. Let some of y'all file in as well. Somebody give me a comment so I can know that comments are live. Oh, I'm going to go to live chat. Now, I can tell you we're probably not going to be able to catch every comment in the live chat this evening. If Professor Walker and myself get caught up in conversation, we might not see several comments, but we'll do our best and see how it goes. Huzzah! All right. Let's see how far behind I am. Huzzah! No, not that bad. Maybe 20 seconds. Maybe not quite 20 seconds. All right, so I send Professor Walker a message. If you're listening out there, let me know. Professor Walker. Mr. Sherlock Holmes, I was going to mention you, sir. So definitely happy birthday to you. Mr. Sherlock Holmes's birthday is this Friday, 6/18. And I won't out him on his age. Some people like that, some people don't. But I was able to get him a birthday present out the door right quick today, and I was happy to do it. Glad I caught his email. And that's one thing I wanted to mention before I brought our guest in today is that's the kind of stuff that I wish I had more time for, that I cannot wait until I'm free of the day job and I can work the Pipe Nook full time, because it was only just, you know, happenstance that, or a coincidence, maybe not, maybe life's sometimes full of things that we might think are coincidences but aren't. But there have been a few things I've missed like that in the past, where somebody wanted the shipment out quickly for a special reason and I missed out on it. Not only missed the sale, but made somebody, you know, lose faith in the Pipe Nook. So that's the kind of thing I cannot wait to start getting a better handle on. So, but happy birthday to you, sir. All right, so last week was supposed to be a special guest, and last week was so hectic and crazy that I absolutely forgot to send out the Zoom invite to my guest. And so he asked me in chat, "Did you forget about me?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, well, I hate to say that I actually did." So, Mercaster, I'm in IT work. I've worked in IT for about 10 years now, with 2 years in the middle that I wasn't really IT. It was, I took 2 years off of IT and went into internet sales for a music store here in town. But yeah, I've got 10 years of what I would call light IT experience. That would be help desk, light networking, some telecommunications, mobility, mobile device management, that kind of stuff. And that is all I can say at the moment. But, you know, it's been good work, but at times it's been hectic work. And today, when I signed off today, I was in single digits in my work queue. And if any of you guys are in help desk or IT in general, being in single digits in your work queue is pretty amazing. It doesn't happen to me very often anyway. There have been times I was up to 25 in my personal work queue, with many, many more unassigned tickets in my group work queue. So for me to be down into single digits, I'm very happy about that. And I'll be working my way to 0 by next Friday when I sign off for the last time. Cliff, welcome, sir. Unix admin, interesting. Some decent money in that. Yeah, definitely my passion is the pipe nook. Whereas if something like today's emergency came up on my day job, I'd be put out and stressed out and just not very happy about it. But I was more than happy. The post had already run today, but there was a birthday shipment that had to go out, and I was more than happy to jump out and drive to the post office and get that out the door for a happy customer. So, Donald, yeah, I've been on the receiving end of a few cuss outs in my IT days. John, good evening. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to bring in Professor Walker. Many of you, I'm sure, are subscribed to him and know his channel. I'm hoping this is going to work out. He's in my waiting room right now, so away we go. And let's see. Curtis is here. Can you hear me, Curtis?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I sure can. All right. Let's see what YouTube looks like.
All right. There, my volume is up. How you doing, Eddie?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Good. Look, check it out. My YWPC pipe official work shirt.
Nice.
Employee #1.
Very good. Did you just get that?
I got it a few weeks ago, but I haven't really worn it. So today, this is the debut here.
That's hilarious. That's what my grandfather always wore. Not my pipe smoking grandfather, but one of the generation in between. He owned his own automotive shop, and he wore those blue Dickies like all the time, every day. You know, with his name.
So no one will be confused who it is. So yep. Single employee.
And you won't forget.
No, well, you never know.
You can always just look down.
The older you get, right? It starts to slip a little more and more.
All right, Let's see. I've got Zoom going. I've got my chat going. I think we're a good 30 seconds behind.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you probably, do you have YouTube pulled up, or are you just doing the Zoom thing?
You know, I'm going to pull it up right now. Hey, there it is. Oh, yeah. So I can see. Oh, I better turn the volume down so there's no feedback.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. Okay. So I can see. Oh, yeah. Lots of comments in there.
Yeah.
Well, I before we get going, I tell you, I'm brain dead. You set something down and then who knows where it goes. But today is like cutting stem sanding day. So I've got like a few pipes that I'm working on. You get this kind of rough where you just fit the stem to the shank and then you play with it. And I was just working on this funky, I don't even know what color. Well, it's kind of if you can tell, but it's like a funky, weird pattern. And then I got this candy apple red. I'm doing a couple of these. And it's like it's Christmas because then I got green too. Do the red and green in the middle of the summer.
Nice.
Oh, but yeah, it's a hot day here. I don't know what it's like where everyone else is, but yesterday was like right about 100. I couldn't even work outside, and I don't have I work in the garage and in the front yard. There's no air conditioning, so you just sweat. And when it's 100 degrees, it's miserable to do it. And I mean, I lived in Tucson for 10 years, so it's not like I haven't been in the heat, but like doing this kind of work, and I like to smoke a pipe while I'm working on pipes, forget it. It's just miserable.
Yeah.
But today's a little better. I think it's only like 95 today.
Oh, wow. So it's 90 right now where I'm at. But I've had to run quite a few errands today, and
And you're in Florida, so you have that humidity that they always talk about.
Yeah.
We don't know what that is here. I mean, we hear tales of humidity, but
and
we don't experience it.
Now, but it's 43% humidity right now, which isn't bad, but
no, that's not bad.
That's terrible.
Well, I think because I grew up in Kansas, so they have it's Kansas isn't a humid state. Like it has it, but it's not as bad as some of the other places around there. And I hadn't experienced it for a long time. And we flew to Omaha, Nebraska, and my kids were really little, like toddler age. And I remember getting off the plane, and like the minute you get into that little tunnel to go to the airport, you were like, oh my God, you're instantly like wet with sweat because it was 90 some degrees and probably like 90% humidity. And you're like, oh my gosh, my wife, of course, at the time, because I'd been trying to talk her into, hey, maybe we should move to the Midwest someday. We should get out of California.
Yeah.
And then she was like, yeah, I don't think so. 5 minutes of this. Because there's just nothing like that here. It doesn't really get humid. I mean, we only have a few hot days a year, like these 100-degree days. And when you go inland, it's worse, but around here, not bad at all. All right, so what's the agenda today?
Well, I definitely, I think people have watched my channel long enough to know it's not a big show. So we're not going to be putting on a big presentation or anything, but I figured we could just have a chat. I could ask you questions, you could ask me questions, and we'll just have a back and forth and try to catch comments and questions as we can.
Well, one of the comments I just saw was from Merkster that he said he worked at Offutt Air Force Base. That's why my dad actually lived in Omaha as a little one, because my dad was in the Air Force station there at Offutt.
Okay.
But then we had family in Nebraska, which I still do. I have family in the Omaha area, and we used to go to Omaha all the time. But some of those older aunts and uncles have passed away now. But they were fun. Nebraska football, back when they were good. Sorry, Nebraska people, but they're terrible now. Which they deserve it, because they were awful. I mean, awful in winning. Because when you went to play Nebraska, way back when in the 70s and 80s, they would run the score up like 77-3, 65 to, they would just kill you. No mercy whatsoever. It's the fourth quarter, and yeah, they had their third string running back in, but their third string running back was better than anybody else had, because people weren't jumping to the NFL. People were sticking around, and man, they just clobbered you, killed you. And yeah, no mercy whatsoever. So seeing them suffer a little bit, plus they left the Big 12. They're dead to me.
So what are you doing?
That's history, man. The old Big 8, the Big 12, and then they abandon us for a paycheck to go over to the Big 10. Sports talk on the Pipe Nook.
That's a rarity.
I don't even watch that much sports, and very little now. But I mean, I loved college football when I was younger, and college basketball. But nowadays, I don't watch much of anything. It just doesn't interest me anymore.
Yeah,
I just think there's too many jackasses. I mean, there was jackasses back then. We just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Thanks, social media.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was kind of a fan of college football in my younger years, and Braves baseball, and just little things here and there, but I never really followed any one sport like super hardcore. And since then, it's been I probably don't know. You could name 10 current sports names and I probably wouldn't know 8 of them. I just don't keep up with it.
Yeah, I don't either. I stopped keeping up. I mean, I'm a Kansas City Royals fan, so I was really thrilled when they won the World Series a couple years ago. And you knew it was kind of a one-off thing. You're not going to see him go back probably for another 20 or 30 years. But yeah, I don't know players anymore. I rarely watch games. And I mean, I used to love it. I loved watching college football, even NFL football, but it's just it's hard to watch now because they can't just play, and just people are some of the bad behavior. And in my cop experience, one of the things people don't understand about being a police officer is it ruins everything for you, because you see the underbelly of everything. You pull over the pastor at the church, and I had this, I used to work Sunday mornings for a while, and I had the same pastor at this Calvary chapel that he would be flying down the road, and and you don't really want to pull people over and give them tickets on Sunday morning. But when you're out on the street where the speed limit's 35 and some dude blows by 60 something, you have to, because otherwise people are looking at you. Other people on the street are like, what are you doing, cop? Right? That happens every now and then, where somebody, you're like on your way, not necessarily to a call, but you're on your way to lunch. You want to eat. I mean, eating is important. People minimize that and they think, oh, you shouldn't eat when no, it's important. You got to eat. And somebody blows a stop sign in front of you, you want to ignore it, but you can't always, because sometimes there's someone right next to you making eye contact with you. It's like, did you see that? And you're like, damn it, I did see it. But this pastor, I pulled him over like 4 times, and the first couple times I didn't give him a ticket because he's like, oh, I'm running late for church Sunday. Pastor John over at Calvary Chapel. I'm like, oh, okay, Pastor John, just slow down. And but then by the 3rd time, I was like, man, Pastor, you need to set your alarm, brother. Pastor John's getting a ticket and going to get his license suspended if he don't slow down.
We're kind of putting the cart before the horse here. So let's reel back a bit, because I do want to get into your cop experience a little bit, as much as you're comfortable with. But first up, we'll do a couple of preliminary questions. Tell everybody what you're smoking right now, and I'm loading up.
Well, I am smoking one of my own little poker pipes, and I'm smoking basically what I smoke about 99% of the time, which is Elizabethan mixture. And I just fill this thing up with Elizabethan plus any random Louisiana, Virginia Perique blend that I come across. So there is a little bit of Bayou Morning Flake in here, because that stuff was too strong for me right out of the tin.
Yeah.
I tried mellowing it out, and I like the Bayou Morning actually quite a bit. but the flake, I don't know, there's something about it for me where it kicked my butt. I could not smoke it straight. I had to mix it and calm it down a bit.
So I am loading up some, where's it at? Old Joe. I think this was my last Wednesday night smoke, but Old Joe and the Beltane's fire pipe from Rattrays.
I like those Rattrays pipes. Is that one of the ones that has multiple stems?
Yeah, this is the one that comes with three different colored stems.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, I think they kind of got it from Stanwell. That I think Stanwell did that with a couple of their pipes. They would have a short stem and a long stem, but I've never seen a company do multiple colored stems of the same kind of stem. So that was interesting. But let me light up here. Well, while I do that, let me get my questions up. I'm trying to get legit, man. I got questions and whatnot.
Too legit to quit.
Too legit. So most people watching us now know who you are, but give folks a brief introduction of yourself and,
All right, so
where you've lived.
Curtis is my name, or Kurt, but I have the Professor Walker channel. It started out as Smoke and Law, or Law and Smoke. Got it backwards. Started out as Law and Smoke, but then I changed to Professor Walker because then the part of the idea behind that is I wanted to do more kind of criminal justice informative type videos, and I have done some of those. I was a police officer, actually was a Marine. I saw some people in the comments talking about the Marine Corps. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, just long enough to know that I didn't want to stay there 20. Nothing wrong with the Marines, but 4 years was enough for me. And I remember very well as I was coming up on the end of your enlistment, where you have these guys that are trying to talk you into staying, the recruiters, career planners, what they call them. And they would come and be like, Corporal Walker, you need to think about your future. I'm like, yeah, I did. And my future is not here. It's somewhere else. It's been great. It's been a great 4 years, but it's time for me to go. And then I became a police officer. I started out with the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and then worked for the Tucson Police Department. And at some point, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. And, we don't want to make this a bummer show, but there was a period of time when my kids were little. It was like a 2-week period of time where I had like 2 dead tiny child calls in a row, like within a real short period of time. And I was just like, you know what? I got to find a different way to make a living, because the danger doesn't bother me. I mean, I've been shot at. I've had people try to stab me. I was hit by cars twice when I did dope type work. People come at me with samurai swords. I've been hit with sticks, all that good fun stuff. Had to square off and fight people that were like twice my size, and just praying that they don't kill me before somebody else comes to save me, because I was completely overmatched, and just, trying to not shoot them and kill them. So that part is not the part that bothers me. It's having to, and before I had kids, I was okay with it, because that's just part of your job of what you do. But then once I had my own kids and they were little, in that toddler age, baby stage, then when you start having those calls, you're like, I mean, some people get through it just fine. But for me, I was like, I got to get out of this. I got to figure out something else. Yeah. And I'm just lucky that not lucky. I had to put a lot into it, because I had no education at that point. But then I went back to school, finished my degrees, became a high school teacher. And then now I'm a professor at East Los Angeles College, and they're stuck with me for life. So I got tenure a couple years ago, so I'll be there for as long as I can. But it was a big change. I mean, I love it now. I love teaching. I love being with students that want to get into this. I'm also just starting doing some work with an organization that helps firefighters and police officers and military, all people that are kind of suffering with PTSD type syndromes. Because I think most of us that have experienced that life, whether we admit it or not, there's a little something, you know, and people are more likely to admit stuff now than they used to, because the machismo is strong here.
Right.
But we're doing a lot better at kind of owning up that, hey, you know, maybe I need help, or maybe this isn't getting through this, whatever experience isn't as easy. So this organization that I'm working with, they provide services for guys going through trouble, whether it's alcohol, drug counseling, therapy. Also, like, we help with going to the departments all around and letting them know that the services exist, because a lot of this stuff didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah.
There were no psychological, substance abuse counseling, therapy organizations. There were individuals, but not organizations where it was geared towards saving those people. And I think really the catalyst for it was Iraq and Afghanistan, because there was organizations like, there's one called Save a Warrior Foundation and others like that, because we just became acutely more aware of the damage and harm that the toughest and baddest guys out there get.
Yeah.
So, and that there's nothing wrong with it. As a matter of fact, if you don't have some sort of damage, I don't know, I question what the hell. I mean, you just turned off all emotion, which is kind of what we do when you're in fire or public service in some way. You have to turn it off. But the problem is it'll come back. It does. And it comes back in harmful ways if you don't take care of it. So I'm pretty jazzed about that. And I got into pipe smoking just a few years ago. I think it was maybe 2018, somewhere around there. It's when I started making YouTube videos. Matches, of course, 860 was probably the biggest influence. You know, Mutton Chop Piper, but Mutton Chop Piper was more for me about learning how to smoke pipe, learning about the tobaccos, where getting to know John Harden Matches was more about, hey, the YouTube pipe community, and having fun interacting with other pipe smokers. And, you know, and anybody that got to know John a little bit, which of course I only know him a little bit, he was just such a gentleman, so helpful. You know, before I had a YouTube channel, I contacted him and said, hey, you know, my name's Kurt and I got this channel I'm going to do, and do you have any advice? And yes, he took time to email me back, and we emailed back and forth before I ever started my channel. You know, just talking about, you know, what he does for a camera, or video editing software, things like that. So those were like the big influences to get going. And then now, I don't know, to me, YouTube is just a way to have fun. And I'm obviously silly and stupid. If you've seen some of the videos I've done some really stupid ones.
So I kind of wanted to touch a little bit on, you were talking about that organization you're involved with now. I think it's interesting that you said that's kind of catering towards military and
everything that they call under the first responder category.
First responders, okay. You know, from someone like me outside looking in, I've never been a first responder. I wasn't in the military. When you think of PTSD, you think of the military. You don't really, or I don't really think about police officers and firefighters, but that makes a lot of sense now that I think about that. And it reminds me of kind of a conversation I had with one of my oldest and dearest friends a couple of months ago. He, out of high school, he became a security guard, became a police officer, became a city detective, and then went to law school. And You know, got his law degree. He's working on his bar in his third state right now, I think. And but anyway, it's been years since he's been on the beat, you know. But we were talking a month or two ago, and he mentioned something about just every now and then he'll just get these images or these flashbacks that he can't really. They just come out of nowhere, you know, and it kind of shakes him from back during
Yeah.
those days.
I
And
haven't been a cop for a long time, and I have dreams about it all the time.
that's wild.
And you just can't get rid of it. And, you know, like one of my best friends in the police department, which I don't have a lot of friends in policing because my personality, I think, is better suited to people outside the police community. I have friends in there, but it's not like that wasn't my social circle. And it's actually really good, I think, if you're gonna, for people that want to get into law enforcement and fire service, to not have that be your whole social circle, because that actually compounds some of the problems and some of the issues. But one of the guys has been my longtime friend. We're on patrol together, both of us at the beginning of our careers. He was a homicide detective. He's worked like the internet child pornography investigation stuff.
Mm.
And he'll openly tell you, I see dead people. You can't help it, because when you're working something like that, because even like for me, where I never did that, I was just a patrol officer. You driving down the street, you can't help but think every time when you're on patrol, and then if you live in that city, that's where we found the little girl in the dumpster. And it's going to be with you forever. And it may not even be something as, horrific like that, because you could be in a smaller community where maybe they don't have a lot of murders, but you're going to get every awful traffic accident. And so does the fire. You're going to get the little decapitated 4-year-olds. Yeah, see, this is an uplifting conversation, right? But you're going to get all that stuff. And the problem with law enforcement and fire, and why the PTSD gets so exacerbated, is you don't get a break. You keep at it year after year after year, and you rack up 20, 25, 30 years. And you see things that you are way past what, the more normal public has to encounter, because you're only going to the bad stuff. Like, nobody's ever calling you and saying, hey, everything's great, Officer Walker, can you come over and just have coffee? No, it's always because things are shitty. And the fire department, for the most part, they're medical assistants. That's primarily what their role is. I mean, yeah, they fight fires. When there's a fire, but most days there's not a fire. Most days they're going to grandpa had a heart attack, a pit bull mauled the 4-year-old, horrible car accidents, right? That needs fire. It could be everything from, oh, my little back hurts, right? To an accident that occurred in our city that I was glad I wasn't actually on the scene of it, because the officers that were there were horrified because they had 2 little 5-year-olds decapitated because mommy and daddy didn't want to put them in their seatbelts.
Wow.
And you'd see that kind of stuff where you wanted to choke the parents to death. I had a 7-year-old that was ejected from a Jeep and killed, and mom and her friend were in the front perfectly okay in their seatbelts, but they didn't because the girl didn't like her seatbelt. And that's what the mom was saying. Well, she doesn't like to wear her seatbelt. Well, yeah, now she's dead. Yeah, congratulate. Good job, mom. Because when you're and that kind of thing would make you just like want to rip your hair out, even if you only have a little bit, growing, you want to pull, because you're like, be a parent. Yeah, let your kid cry the whole freaking way down the street. But they're going to wear their damn seatbelt. They're going to be in their car seat. And that kind of stuff it would make you insane. And then you do that for 20 years, but I'm glad, I'm fortunate that I'm out. Education is far better. No one tries to kill me. I haven't been shot at once. Nice. I've had some weird things happen. I had a high school student throw a chair at me, but that was about the worst, because she was tardy. That was my fault.
Oh, wow. That was when you were teaching high school, right?
Yeah. Because my first teaching job was a high school teaching job, at Cal High in Whittier. Woo, woo, woo. Great place, great school. But yeah, I had this one girl, she was trouble all year long. And I was always strict about the tardies and stuff, because some teachers aren't. Some teachers are like, whatever. Kids, and that's not even good for kids. Like, kids love that teacher, the one that's like, oh yeah, no rules. But how is that helpful for training your children to survive in the world, to just say, oh yeah, just be late every day.
Yeah.
Don't show up. Don't turn in your work. But it's like an easier thing. And there's, I think, teachers that just want to be friends with the kids.
Yeah.
And they want to be cool. But that wasn't me. I didn't care. And so, every time she was tardy, I would always write her up her little tardy slip. And she came in, and I was writing her little tardy slip, and then she starts yelling at me that there was security guard stopped her or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I picked up the phone to call security, because I'm a police officer, right? I will, I'm going to call your bullshit. And so I pick up the phone, and I said, hey, security, did you guys just stop little Tina on the way in and detain her for a bit? They're like, no, we just saw her running through the gate though. So then when I called her on it, and I'm like, hey, the security said that you're full of it, she picked her chair up and threw it at me, and then ran from the class. Okay, bye, Tina. But she came back, and she apologized, and she cried and everything, and shed a little tear, and we were good after that. It was like, for the rest of the year, we were cool. She threw a chair at me. She got it all out. But high school was fun. It actually was. I really, I enjoyed teaching high school. And the only reason I didn't stay at the high school is I'm kind of, I guess, a whore for money, because the college pays more.
Well,
but if it wasn't for that's really the only reason. Teaching at a college pays more than being the high school teacher, and it paid significantly more. So it's like, do I really love my job teaching at the high school? Yes, but I can make more money and work less, because as a regular school teacher, you're 5 days a week. You come in at 7 a.m, leave at 3, right? You work a normal sort of day, grade papers and stuff at night. As a community college professor, I work Monday through Thursday. I never work Friday, ever. Don't work the weekend. It's kind of a cushy job, and it lets me, BS with you on YouTube.
There you go. And you have tenure.
And I can make pipes in my spare time.
My wife's an elementary teacher, and yeah, she brings her work home every day of the week.
Every day.
She works weekends, and she's planning her next year over the summer, and it's crazy.
Clean that classroom. She's probably going to go in a week at least before school starts to prepare the classroom, change the boards out and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of work being a school teacher. People think, oh, you got the summer off. Well, yeah, it's mental health to have it off. Because by the end of the school year, you have to have a break, because having, especially in the elementary grades, high school is a little better because we get them for like an hour at a time, and you get a different group, and then usually a semester change. And sometimes, depending on what class you teach, there's a switch. But elementary teachers, man, you got the same kids all year long, all day. And if you got one that's giving you hell, oh my, I couldn't do it. My next door neighbor is a kindergarten teacher, and she's been doing it for a long time. Patience. You just have to, a lot more patience.
Yeah.
Well, see, I saw Wisconsin women want to know what lathe I'm using for pipe making. I can answer that question.
Go for it.
A big green one. No, I have a Grizzly G4000 that I bought just a couple months ago. And then I have a little Harbor Freight one is what I started with. But the Harbor Freight one is like that little teeny tiny one. And all it was good for is making stems. It wasn't really big enough to turn wood. So before I got the Grizzly, all the shaping of the pipes was all done just with a sander. And so it was a lot more work, a lot less precise. But now I have the Grizzly full-size lathe. And now I can turn everything on it. And then I still use my Harbor Freight one. I use that one just to do the stems. So like I take the stem and I do all the drilling, drill your little 1/16 hole, and and on this side, ooh, this one's tight, and make your little tenon. I do that on that little Harbor Freight one, which that Harbor Freight one, it was cheap. It was like $500, but that was my initial foray into pipe making. My wife granted me a $500 allowance to start this little business. And then since then, everything else, like that Grizzly, all the other tools I bought are just completely 100% just on sales. Because I'm not really taking any money to spend on myself. All the money from my pipe making, every sale just goes right back into materials and tools. And so in the course of a year, now I've accumulated bandsaw, sander, that Grizzly lathe, which is sweet, plus a lot of tooling for it, files, like all the, it seems like every month, my tool collection is getting better and better.
Yeah.
And the trick to doing anything well is better and better tools. Because if you don't have the right tools to get it done, it's just hard. And like at the very beginning, I was doing everything by hand, and oh my gosh, and try to do a bent pipe by hand. Oh man, that's the worst. It's so hard. A straight pipe is not that hard. You can do it, because like a straight pipe, really all this is 2 holes.
Right.
That's it. I mean, there's complexities in airflow and stuff, but you drill a hole here, you drill a hole here. Hopefully they meet somewhere in the middle and they meet at the bottom. But even then, there's a lot of argument and debate, because there are some pipe makers that have it up a little higher, and it seems like their pipes smoke just fine. So, but basically you want this. And then once you bend it, oh my God, it seems like at first I thought it was simple. I thought, oh, well, you just, you get your little block of wood, you draw your lines on it, drill. I must have done, I bet you there's 15 blocks of Briar at least in a bucket in my garage, where the drill, like I had it aligned wrong, even though I could have swore, like I double check, you triple check. I got all my little pencil marks on there, because you watch YouTube videos, of people how they make pipes, and they put, like, you see that, but they draw all over the block, right? Sometimes they even have a little piece of graph paper, right, with their design. I did that stuff, got it all on there, and then I would drill it, and then I would realize, son of a bitch, the drill hole's below the bowl. And then, because I would think like the tip of my drill is way over here, but I don't see it. And then there's not enough room in the wood to go any further. I had some where I just drilled it completely out the other side. And a couple of those I kept for myself, although most of them are just sitting in a bucket. Another pipe maker, I heard him call it his wall of shame, because he had all of his ruined blocks of wood up on the wall, like ones that he screwed up, not like it just had a flaw in the wood.
Yeah.
I have a bucket of shame, and I keep it there. I'm not going to throw those away. That's like what you look at before you drill, so if I'm not super, super careful, it's going to go in the bucket of shame.
Yeah.
And if it's a cheap block, because when people are, and this is one of the thing you start to learn about Briar, is the less expensive blocks, the cheaper blocks, is what you use for rustications, because the grain pattern isn't really that great. It doesn't have, because every now and then I'll come across a pipe where, you're like, it doesn't have any flaws on it whatsoever. It would be a great smooth pipe, but the grain pattern is just kind of ugly. Like it just doesn't have good grain. You look at it and you're like, it's ugly. And
Yeah.
you're like, that's great. A pipe with not a single flaw on it, and it's ugly. Well, so you're going to rusticate it. And usually those are less expensive blocks. And you get those for $6, $10 if it's bigger, right? Well, sometimes then you buy those nice ones with all the pretty grain. And if you ruin a $6 block of Briar, you can go to bed at night, no problem.
Yeah.
A $6 block. But I've ruined a couple like higher $30 blocks where it was beautiful, and you're getting it and you're like, oh, my precious, it's so beautiful. The grain is so beautiful in this one. And then I freaking you drill it incorrectly, and there's a $30 block in an hour and a half down the drain.
Man. Well, I have never been good with woodworking of any sort whatsoever. My wife knows better than to ask me to hang anything on the wall, like a picture. I'm just bad at it. But my hat's off to you. Well, I'll keep it on, but my hat is metaphorically off to you.
Thank you. It's getting better. Getting better.
Now, how many pipes have you made at this point?
Over 200, but I lost track.
Yeah.
I was trying to not number them, like some of the pipe makers number and keep track. I did that for the first about 120, and I didn't put a number on it when it went out, but I kept a log of all the pipes. But around 120, I gave up. And so I'm up over 200. But what my thought is, and my feeling for how this kind of trade works, is I don't think my pipes are going to be really, really good until I get somewhere around 500 to 1,000, and that 500 and above to 1,000. Because I really think that it just takes that much time to learn. It's like any trade, you're not, because when you look at the ones, because I even look at ones that I did a year ago, because I have some of the ones I did for myself, and then little things that I've learned, I just think they get better and better. And I don't have it's not a goal of mine. I have no interest whatsoever in making expensive $400 or $500 pipes. None. My entire business plan for pipes is that from now until I no longer do this, because I plan on hopefully doing it till I'm 80, but to keep doing it, but to sell inexpensive pipes that are like the shop pipes that use a factory stummel, or my handmade pipes where you're looking at a max of maybe like $150. So between 50 for a good smoking, inexpensive pipe that you can beat around and you do yard work in it and it falls and you don't care. Well, you care, but you're not going to cry, because I don't know if you've ever dropped, Eddie, an expensive pipe, but I dropped one of my really beautiful handmade, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name right now, but it's just a beautiful pipe, like a $400 pipe. And the stem broke, the tenon broke, and then this beautiful piece of Briar had a big old gash on it. And I'm crying in the garage. My family's wondering what the hell's wrong with you. I dropped a pipe, and they're like, "Yeah, it's a $400 pipe." But that's not going to ever be my niche. My niche is, like Mr. Mercer just said, a good affordable pipe.
Yeah.
So I'll never fit in with the Dunhill crowd. That's okay.
I can't trust myself with really nice things. I learned that in high school. So so yeah, that's my price range right there. That's kind of my where quality meets value price range, is about $150.
And I would like to own maybe a couple nice pipes like that again, but I don't, maybe when I'm retired and I just don't have any, if I don't have any money to spend, or I have money to spend and nothing to buy, I guess, but I can't see spending that kind of money. I don't have money like that just to blow on, real expensive pipes. And I have some pipe smoking friends that do. One of the guys I go to the pipe club with, every time he opens up his like little pipe bag, I think, good God, there's more money than I've never even had a car that cost as much as that pipe bag. When you look at all the pipes in there, you're like, just like drooling over them, because every single pipe he pulls out, you're like, that pipe was more than my first car. Definitely that one cost more.
Wow.
But
do you
but
see
you
guys?
have to
Oh,
go ahead. Oh no.
Do you see guys in your pipe club that show up with like, cases that kind of fold open like makeup boxes? And
No, I haven't seen that. But I've seen some bags where they come out with like a bag, and there's like 7 or 8 pipes in there, and every single one of them is like a wow pipe.
Yeah.
There's some of those guys. And then there's guys like me, that are pulling out the Dr. Grabo and the Savinelli, right?
Yeah.
And this Savinelli this is a Savinelli handmade, and it's an old estate pipe. This thing is just a phenomenal pipe. It is. This is like one of those pipes that if it was the only pipe I had, I'd be perfectly happy. It is just great.
Yeah.
And I don't know what this thing was new, because I mean, it's obviously would have been a more expensive Savinelli, but it is just a fantastic pipe. Beats that Dunhill, I tell you. Well, I don't know. I've never smoked a Dunhill, so I don't know. Maybe they are great.
I've smoked a couple of Dunhills. Of course, I'm Mr. 9mm, and Dunhill does not have 9mm filtered pipes to my knowledge, but so I always struggle with that. I will ask you about that a little bit, because I've asked you about maybe doing a 9mm filtered pipe. You want to talk a little bit about how?
Oh yeah, sure. 9mm are a giant pain. And what it is, I think, is, at least for me, because I've made a few 9mm pipes, and a straight 9mm pipe, for whatever reason, I've made a couple of those. They've worked out. But every attempt I've made at a bent 9mm has gone poorly. I've chosen poorly, right? From Indiana Jones. And because what it, depending, there's just some, like, there's more to it. Like any straight pipe without a filter in it, it's just infinitely easier. So what my plan or my goal is, because right now I pretty much make only non-filtered pipes, is that as I get better, I'll start adding more of the 9mm. And I do occasionally, like I have one right now, I don't have it with me. I got a bunch of pipes that I'm working on in front of me, but I do have one straight 9mm that I'm working on, because I know if I throw a 9mm pipe up for sale, there's usually always somebody that will want it, because there's kind of sometimes it's lacking in the offerings for 9mm pipes.
Yeah.
But every bent one I've tried to do has ended up in the can of shame. But at some point, when I reach that skill level, the Master Yoda skill level, then when I start mastering the bent pipe and then the bent 9mm.
Yeah.
But until then, I don't want to ruin any more Briar. I've done enough damage.
You keep me posted.
I will.
Let's see. What have we missed? Anything as far as questions or comments?
I can look through here. I'll scroll through some of these questions and see if there's anything, because a lot has gone by.
So,
because I thought I saw somebody, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, you should do a book on it. I would like to write a book, but then I'd have to like lock myself in a room somewhere, because I probably wouldn't have the discipline for it.
yeah.
Donald Hughes, I always tell first responders to have a boring day. That is actually true. You definitely like your boring days. I used to work with this female officer. Her name was Jennifer, and Jennifer was always really cool to hang around with. She had a real even personality. You know, everything could be like the whole world could be falling apart, and she was pretty chill. It didn't matter what was going on. She was just chill. I don't know if she was like that in her personal life. You know, I don't know if she went home and then just freaked out, but at work, she was always just really chill. And we had, because we worked the same little patrol area, so we would have lunch together a lot because we took all the same calls in this little northern sector. And we had like, I want to say like it seemed like 4 or 5 days in a row where it was like dead body call, dead body call, dead body call. And then like we get one, we were coming out of lunch and it was like dead body call. And Jennifer was like, that's enough dead bodies. Like, come on, give someone else the dead guy call. Why is everyone dying? Like it's like they died, but like you feel like it's some sort of hardship on you, right?
Yeah.
You're still living and eating, but that's kind of like what goes on in your head. You're like, oh no, I can't have no more dead people. And if you've ever, there's a movie with Nicolas Cage. It's called Bringing Out the Dead, and it's like an old movie from the 90s, and he's a paramedic in it. Everybody that I've ever known that was like fire or law enforcement, when they watch that movie, they're like, oh my God, that movie just spoke to you. Because the movie, it's over the 3 days of Nicolas Cage's life on this ambulance, and he's like a burnout. And like every call he's going to, every single call, the people die. And so he's like, no heart attacks. You know, he's like, broken arm, give me a broken arm. And it's like, no, chest pain. He's like, no, because he knows they're going to die. And that happens sometimes in law enforcement where it's just, you get hammered. Like, and then what the great stuff is, like, you know, Donald said to ask for a boring day. I, you sometimes you get that luck where you get like a couple of weeks where almost nothing happens. And you feel like I'm getting paid to do a whole lot of nothing. It's that 98% boredom and 2% crazy. So you asked what the lathe was. I guess we already saw that. I thought somebody asked about percentage, and I don't mess up too many blocks anymore, because I think now I'm trying to do what's in my wheelhouse more right now and get better at the little things, like the stems. The stem, this is actually really where all my focus is right now, is trying to make a really good stem, because that it's one of the things that's pretty challenging to do and challenging to get, because like, okay, this pipe, the stem looks nice on this one. I like the way it looks, but it's actually a little too thick. Because when you are new at this, or just when you're making them, it's really hard to get that really thin bite and the right, just to have it the right way. And so I'm trying to get there on that. I'm trying to get so that, you know, when one of these stems goes on a pipe, not only does it fit the way it should, because that is a huge deal right there, just getting them to fit every time correctly. It seems like, oh, that should be easy. That was a bear at first. It was just such a difficult thing to try to get right. But now it's getting this stem, getting that the drill holes correctly, getting the funnel right, and having that area smooth in there. So that's my big focus. So I'm ruining less wood, but mostly because I'm not challenging myself as much, at least on the drilling. I'm keeping my drilling safer and being a little riskier with this, because the thinner you get with this, the more likelihood you can go into the air hole. And so there's that, you know, if you go just a little bit too far, then you made it too thin and it's going to break, or so it's trying to find that sweet spot.
Are saddle stems the most difficult?
Tapered. Saddle stems are a little easier to get correctly proportioned.
Huh.
And if you notice, if you ever watch any of the videos that, what's his name? Oh, he's the Jay Allen Pipes.
Uh-huh.
He does a lot of videos about pipe making. And I've seen, like, whether it's his or a couple of the other high-end pipe maker guys, they almost exclusively make saddles, because the tapered ones, the factory makes good tapered stems, because you can have a machine do it. But if you're trying to do it yourself, it's a lot more challenging, where the saddle, like this is a rough saddle right here. This one, you've got your piece of acrylic that you've matched up here and fit. You just find a spot, you flatten it on each side, and then you can use a round file or like a Dremel tool, and you can create that little saddle. And you can cheat if you want, put a little piece of like really thin pinstripe tape to know where your center line is. And it's not hard to get it, once you've done some, to get it fairly uniform. But the taper, oh man, these tapered, it's a bear, because if you're off a little bit, it looks really crappy. I mean, you can see it like right away, where you're like, oh man, that looks terrible. But the saddle, I think it's also a little more forgiving, that if it isn't quite perfect, it still looks good. Now, Jay Allen probably makes them all perfect. So,
well, so let me ask you this, as a non-pipe maker myself. So the stem tenon fit, what makes that as important as it is, as far as, sometimes I used to wonder, like, why wouldn't the stem just be the same material as the tenon? Why wouldn't that be a one-piece thing? You know what I mean? But tenons, are always fit into stems. What is the
oh, so you've taken it out. Okay. So like well, there's a couple different things there, because now when you have like this is a pipe with a Delrin tenon. Let me pull this out. So the Delrin tenon, are you talking about like the Delrin where it's a different material?
Right.
Or they're just different material from the shank? I don't use the Delrin very much. I use the Delrin just on these, when I'm making a shop pipe, a $50 shop pipe, because then I'm using most of the time a factory stem, and I get the factory ones with the Delrin. And I know some of the high-end pipe makers use Delrin, but some of the high-end pipe makers also hate the Delrin, because with the Delrin, there's opportunity for failure. Because the way they put this Delrin in here is they drill a hole, that's the exact size basically as the Delrin, and then you're pounding it in and you're gluing it in there with epoxy, or like a flexible super glue. And it has to have a little bit of flex to it, because every time you're putting that tenon in here, there's going to be some movement, because it's like the Delrin is a little rubbery. And so if that epoxy seal in there is flawed in any way, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
And so some guys I've talked to, they don't ever use Delrin because they've had a couple failures. And then you get a pipe back that doesn't work right, and you're like, oh crap, right? It fell apart. And so I only use these on this pipe. And I shouldn't say only, I've done a few with Delrin, but it makes me a little nervous, because when I hear the stories of people saying that fell apart on them, I'm like, ugh. So mostly what I do is where it's it's the incorporated tenon, where it's the same material. And I think that that's superior, because then, this can break, it can snap. Everybody's had at some point you had a pipe that a tenon snapped on you because it was dropped or whatever, but it's not going to just fall out, because it's part of the stem. It's part of the same material. So I prefer these. And then it's just a matter of getting it to fit right, which you want the balance between, because if it's too tight, you may have experienced that, you can snap the shank, which I've done. And if it's even remotely too loose, it's useless, right? Because if it's loose at all, just forget it, you know. And you want that where it fits in there, it's snug, it's not going anywhere. Like this one is, to me, kind of perfect. The red one, I'm really gonna have to take like a hair's breadth off of this, because this one's just a hair too tight. But like this one is, to me, this is about the perfect fit. If I could do this one every time, I'd be happy. But it doesn't always work that way. But I prefer to have it all one material.
Okay.
I think it's better. But honestly, I'm enough of a rookie. I'm new enough at this that I do not pretend that I understand better than someone that's been doing this for 10 or 20 years. But in my limited experience, I like the idea of that tenon, that it's all one piece and that it's not going to fail.
Yeah.
I don't want to rely on glue.
Right. And
which is really what you're doing. I mean, epoxy is good.
Yeah.
You know, CA glue, super glue, it's good, but it's still glue. And it can still not.
I've had two or three tenons come out, work their way out because of that. So I get where you're coming from. And I've always kind of wondered why more pipe makers didn't do the all-in-one stem tenon.
The Delrin's easier. That's the answer.
Just easier to work with?
Well, because with a Delrin, this is why it's easier. Because you can have a drill bit that's the exact size of the Delrin. And this Delrin is coming from a factory. And yeah, there might be a minor difference, but it's pretty consistent in its size. And because it has like a little bit of a, you know, it's a rubbery, it has give to it. Even if it's off a little bit, the Delrin will generally fit. You know, it's gonna, because it conforms a bit, and it has that. It's kind of like self-lubricated, and so it works really well as a tenon. But it's easy because I can drill this, glue it in, boom. With the single one, this one takes more time. Because if I were just to drill a hole and put a piece of Delrin in there, that doesn't take me very long at all. I mean, you have to let it sit, let the epoxy cure, you know, let it sit for a day or two. But this, trying to get this, you have this on the lathe, you got to make a ton of passes. You got to take your piece of wood, you got to keep trying to fit it. You spend a lot more time on this one, where the Delrin one, you know, you can do a lot more productivity. You can produce a lot more if you're doing Delrin, and it's going to fit 100%. It's going to fit perfect. No errors. Where like last night I was doing one of these, and you know, you got your little micrometer, you know, and I sit there and I'm measuring it, making sure, and I'm like, okay, I need to make maybe one more pass with the lathe. Well, I took off just a little bit too much, just a tiny bit. It was just enough that it was like, it, you know, comes in and out. So I know some pipe makers, then that eliminates that, because then now you're not going to waste a piece of acrylic or a piece of ebonite. You're going to have less waste, and it's going to fit every time. I'm just more scared of the failure. I don't want the thing to fall apart, because that scares me more. That glue is not gonna, it's gonna, you know, come out at some point.
Yeah. Cliff says it sounds tougher than fixing teeth. Maybe in Arkansas. I don't think people in Arkansas care all that much about their teeth. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding with Cliff. So let me ask you this. you said that you started pipe smoking in about 2018. What got you interested in pipe smoking, or was it always kind of something in the back of your head? Hey, I'd like to try that at some.
No, I never thought, because I never smoked. I never smoked cigarettes. I smoked 1 or 2 cigars in my life, like when I was in the Marines. When somebody was, getting out of the Marine Corps or something, and you have a beer and they pass out a cigar, and that was really about it. And I was a Lord of the Rings nerd. And so my whole life, I've been a big Lord of the Rings fan since I was about 12 years old. And I always thought the pipe smoking seemed cool in that, because the smoking of a pipe in The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings is an integral part of the characters.
Yeah.
And the enjoyment that they get. And so in 2018, I guess I was pushing, let's see, what's that, 50 years old almost. I was still in my 40s, and I thought, well, I'd like to try it. And that's really all it was. And then I just started watching some YouTube videos, and I thought, oh, I can do that. And then just started doing it. And I saw somebody, Bill asked, where do you find my pipes?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
I have a website that isn't functioning right now, but what I do is I usually post my pipes on YouTube and Instagram. But I need to get my website up. I've had technical difficulties, and I'm a technical loser when it comes to websites. So it's been giving me fits, because I had to switch providers because I was using Shopify before.
Yeah.
And then Shopify said, oh, we're not going to take payments for tobacco. You have to find a different payment provider. I'm like, well, then I'll just get a whole new website provider that will. And I went to Square. And then ever since I've been to Square, it took a long time, like, to get the domain switched over. I was like waiting for weeks for that to occur. And then now I've got the Square domain up, and I can't get the payment processing to work. Shopify was much easier.
So,
well, and really I need to stop making pipes for a day and sit in front of my computer and just figure it out.
I will tell you this. I accepted Square, like the merchant services portion of Square. Mm-hmm. That was one of my forms of payment that I would accept when I started. And I went for a year to a year and a half accepting PayPal payments and Square payments. And then just all of a sudden, they just froze my account on me. And I got an email saying, sorry, you can't sell tobacco or tobacco-related products using Square. It was part of their terms of service. So I don't know. I don't know if their web hosting arm is different from their form of payment, their merchant services arm, but you might want to look into that.
What a headache. Well, and it may end up being that I just keep things on Instagram and YouTube, and I do have a brick and mortar store that I've been taking pipes to now. And I got to go this weekend and take them some pipes. So that's been kind of cool. They sold the first batch of pipes that I gave them, and got to get some more, but it's a balance. Cause I think I heard you where we talked about this before, cause there's a balance, cause they have to everybody's got to make money on the process. And if I can sell them myself,
right,
you do better. But then there's the guarantee, like if you sell some pipes to somebody, because then when I sold them about the last batch of pipes, it was kind of nice. I sold them for less than what I normally do, but I walked out of there with a check for all the pipes. Mm-hmm. All sold at once, and you're dancing on the way outside.
So that wasn't a consignment thing. That's they pay you.
No, they bought them outright.
Nice.
Yeah, they asked it if I wanted to do consignment, they would do it however I wanted to, but they made me an offer of, hey, we'll pay you this much, and I was like, okay. Deal. And when I walk out here and I don't have to worry about it, because I think if I left them there on consignment, I would have been more worried, like, checking back, did they sell? And even though this way, I was still worried because I was worried that, if you sell somebody, pipes and then they don't sell any of them, you're going to feel bad. You're going to be like, I can't even go back in there.
Yeah.
I hang my head in shame. But luckily, they texted me like an hour later and said they'd already sold one. And then like within a day or two, they sold 2 others. So I was pretty happy, and then they're all gone now.
Cool.
So yeah, they emailed me and asked for more. So I was going to bring them some more on Saturday. I just didn't have them done. You know how like your actual real job interferes with this fun job.
Yeah.
I know you know all about that from you having to do everything you've done. But when you're trying to do more than one thing at a time, something's got to give.
Yeah.
And so like last week, because it was my summer session started this week. So I had stuff I had to get done to be ready to kick off for school. And my pipes didn't get made.
Mhm.
Life in the city, right?
Yeah. Now, is that the place that bought your pipes? How many was it? 5, you said?
No, they just bought 4 from me.
4.
Sold them all.
Is that an actual like pipe centric brick and mortar store?
Yeah, it's a pipe
and cigar.
It's like more of a traditional tobacco store. It's called Tobacco Trader LA, and they're over in West Los Angeles, and they're more like an old-fashioned pipe and tobacco shop.
Nice.
It's pretty balanced between pipes and cigars, so it's not really pipe centered, but they have a large selection of pipes, a lot of pipe tobacco, and they even get the esoterica blends when they come in, and but they have like all the good stuff. If you're looking for that good tobacco that you can't find anywhere, they got it there.
So I was going to ask you about that too. So I'm sure you've seen old Hollywood Briar's videos where he's showing all these vintage tins and this, that, and the other. I never thought about that until I got introduced to his channel specifically. But Hollywood, old Hollywood was a pipe centered town, back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Do you ever hit those gold mines of like yard sales or estate sales where you find, somebody's collection that's 40, 50 years old?
Yeah. Well, what's actually helped me to fund my pipe making venture is selling estate pipes. And I've bought and sold a lot of estate pipes. And sometimes I don't make any money on them. Sometimes I've lost money. Like you just, and sometimes you get estate pipes that are junk, once you get to looking deeper at them. But I've found some great gems, and not really so much at yard sales, a couple of state sales, but the flea markets, because here in Southern California, we have some great flea markets. We have a big one in Long Beach, and we have a big one in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. And then there's a couple others spread out throughout Southern California. And you find just amazing stuff. And not every time, because sometimes, I drive all the way there and it's a 90-degree day and you spend 4 hours walking this flea market and you don't find squat. But then there's times where I find gold mines. I bought a rack of pipes for $40, and it was this big rack with like 8 or 9 pipes in it. Every single pipe on the rack was Comoys, GBD, all these great old brands, beautiful pipes. And, because I asked the guy, well, how much would you want for all of them? And he goes, well, I was looking for 40. Like, for all? He goes, yeah, just $40 for all of them. And it was like my wallet could not get out of my pocket fast enough. I was like, $40. Man. And some of those pipes I sold them for 150, a bunch of them, a whole bunch of them over $100 a piece on a $40 investment. So I found some really good estate pipes out there, and some that I've kept, but some of them that I've sold to help buy Briar.
Yeah.
Buy stem material. And I'm doing less of that now because now I'm pretty set up on equipment, having that Grizzly G4000 lathe, because that was the big expense. They're like, it's about $2,000, I think.
Yeah.
And then plus you have to buy you have to get the proper tooling for it. I spent $350 just on a Briar holder, the Briar chuck. You spend at least as much as you on the lathe on all the accessories that you need for it.
Yeah.
But now I've gotten all that. It's all paid for. Like I don't owe anybody money. There's no credit card with lathes on it. So I'm doing less of the hunting for estate pipes.
So they don't
But
make.
if you want to in California, you'll find good stuff, because we actually have people that sell here at the Rose Bowl in Long Beach. They travel around the country and get stuff from estate sales and things all over, and then bring them here. Because I hear people say, "Oh, we don't have anything like that where I'm at." I'm like, "Yeah, because the shoppers are going and buying stuff up from estate sales in other parts of the country, and they sell them here." Because like in the Pasadena area, I think they probably think they can get a lot of money for it.
Huh.
Maybe more than they could get if they kept the pipe in Indiana.
So you said you had to buy, certain fittings for the lathe, and you mentioned a Briar chuck. Was it literally called a Briar chuck, or do you have to kind of?
Yeah, it's a custom-made one.
Interesting.
Yeah, because if you go to either Vermont Freehand's website or the Raw Crafted website, both of those folks sell, their whole business is pipe making supplies.
Right.
And they don't have it in stock all the time, but they have actual Briar chucks. And if you want to hold on just 1 second, I'll grab it for you.
Sure thing.
It's kind of cool to see.
Let's see what I've missed in chat. So Daniel, I did get your email. I have not had time to reply to it yet. I will do my best, sir. I'm not sure when I'll be able to post a video to answer those questions. Hobbiton's answers are awesome. What are Hobbiton's answers? I missed something. But Hobbiton's just awesome in general.
Yeah, so this is the custom Briar chuck. Wow. And so this thing here is like $350 just for this to hold the Briar. And so when you've got your Briar block that you're going to drill, once it's squared, it fits in here. It fits in here on the lathe, and this holds it nice and secure, and it's got pins to hold it in so that when you're spinning this thing around at 1,000 RPMs, you don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't have a good Briar chuck like this to hold the Briar in, and if you're trying to use just what you get at, the Woodcraft supply shop, or you bought on Amazon.com, you can kill yourself, because the lathe, like I heard somebody once talking about the metal lathes, that they said it was somebody on YouTube, and she has a whole channel about metal working and lathe working, because we use a metal lathe and pipe making for the most part, that the lathe is trying to kill you at all times. And so you have to respect it, because it's spinning 1,000, 2,000 RPMs, and you're holding this block of wood. And if it's not held in there properly, and then you're putting a blade on here to cut it, you do something wrong, it's going to fly out. And I've already been hit. I already had that happen for people that watched my channel and saw it. I had one hit my arm, and man, I thought I broke my arm. It hurt worse than anything. And like I said at the beginning of my cop days, I was hit by cars. I was hit with a police baton, where somebody got another officer's baton away and was swinging it away, and they swung right at my head, and I put my arm up, and they hit me right on the elbow. And no, that wood from the lathe, that was more painful.
Wow.
But this thing's pretty cool. And this is a Yeah, custom job, and pretty much all of these, they're made by, like a custom design and by machinists. There's a machinist, and this one is he's Chinese, but I don't know if he's from Republic of China or Taiwan. I'm not sure where he's from, People's Republic. But this is a Chinese pipe maker design. And then there's other ones that there's some guy in Indiana that makes them. There's a few different models, but I really liked the way this one works.
So, oh, I had another question. It just escaped me. Dadgummit. Let me just sit here and think for a sec. No, I don't think it's going to work. I think it's gone. Oh, here it is. Do you use a bandsaw at all? I've seen videos of people shaping ebichons with bandsaws. Terrifying
I do.
to me.
Yeah, I do use a bandsaw. I use a bandsaw to help like cut the blocks to get them, either to help start to get them square. Because when you use the metal lathe, you end up, one of the most important things is getting the block as square as possible, because then it fits better in there and it's more secure. And so, yeah, I use the bandsaw to cut it. And then if you're going to do the people that, especially they do freehand shapes, a bandsaw is really good. Well, I see Daniel Leslie asked, why not use a wood lathe? I actually have a wood lathe, but I think most pipe makers stay away from the wood lathe. Some use it. A wood lathe is scarier. It really is scarier, and it's a little less precise. The metal lathe can do it all. Like the metal lathe can do the stems, it can do everything. Where the wood lathe, it's a little harder to do a block of briar in. And I see Greg Tunnel says he's done a bunch of pens. Yeah, I've done pens, and I do pens on the wood lathe. And the wood lathe is fantastic for a pen. Fantastic. But it's a little scarier doing the pipe on there. The briar is a hard enough wood. I don't know. It scared me. I tried to shape a little bit on the wood lathe, and then the metal lathe is far better. And the wood lathe, Donald said the wood lathes aren't strong enough. The wood lathe is strong enough. It's just that it's easier to make mistakes on a wood lathe, and it's easier to get hurt. Wood lathe, people that do wood lathes are brave people. I'm a chicken now.
So what are your preferred types of pipes and tobaccos for you personally? And I'm curious
Virginia Perique,
if you've tried this.
The professor. I have not. But Virginia Perique, because Elizabethan mixture is what I smoke pretty much all day, every day. And I think I've ordered probably 10 or 20 tins from you over the years, because that was my go-to. But I think for my own pipes, the pipes that I like the best is I like smoking pokers, short kind of poker pipes, and then pipes that are about like this kind of bend. Now, I wish I could make this one consistently well, because again, I'm not quite there yet where I don't make this pipe as well as I would like to. But these two shapes are kind of like my favorite shapes. And the poker, I always like, because you can just set it down. I like a pipe that you can set down, especially when you're working. Because if I'm just sitting out here and we're talking, clenching a pipe is fine, and I do clench a lot. But I like when I'm working to be able to have this kind of pipe where I can just set it down and leave it there, and then I'm not having to have it in the pipe holder. I can just set it wherever.
Yeah.
And with a big fat rim on it. Fat walls.
Are you familiar with? I'm trying to think of his name. There was a pipe maker that made big old fat walls like that. It was
The
kind of his.
Fat Daddy Pipes.
No, David Jones. Was it David Jones pipes?
Mhm.
You might want to check those out. Those are kind of nifty. I don't know if he's still making pipes or not, but I've got one. It's probably not out here, but it just looks like a tree
A
trunk with a little stem on it.
a lot of people come and go in the pipe making world.
Yeah.
I can give you a guarantee right now. I will be doing this 20 years from now, unless I'm dead. I mean, if I'm dead, okay, fine. You know, hit by a bus or something, because I actually love it. I love the process. I love trying to get better at something. Um, I'm okay with that. I'm not the greatest. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me at all, as long as I'm getting better. And I enjoy that. I enjoy improving at something. And this is the type of hobby work that I think that you do it 20 years and you're still going to be improving.
Mm.
I don't, I know there are people that are arrogant that think, oh, I do everything wonderful, and we all meet those people, right? That think they're the expert at everything or whatever it is, like they're the king expert. I don't think that's true. I don't think anybody really is. I mean, I've met a couple people that are like the gun savant, right? And you start talking about 45 caliber guns and they're like firearms savant. Okay. But you should be always learning and always getting better. And I think pipe making is something that 20 years from now, you'll still be getting better.
Mm.
I just don't think you're going to find ways to, I don't know, make the finish better. You're going to be constantly doing things to improve. And so that's why I like it. Plus, I'm not dependent upon this. This is not my livelihood.
Right.
And I would think that if you want to be a pipe maker to make a living, that's a serious challenge, because you're talking about a pastime that may be having a increase right now, but I don't know if it's like how big, how much market share is there to be a full-time pipe maker. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of space for you. It's pretty challenging. I think, what's the guy that the pipe maker, and he's got the shop that all the guys, people like to go to and post their Instagram pictures at. Oh
Is it Urquiza?
no, God, it's killing me. I got one of his pipes too. Boswell, J.M. Boswell.
Oh, Boswell. Okay.
See, where he's, I think, got a great thing going on, because not only does he make the pipes, he has a pipe shop. He has a tobacco shop. And I think that, you know, it's almost about the only way you can make a go of being a full-time pipe maker is you have to have more than just the pipes. You really do, because the pipe market, it's fickle. You got to compete against Savinelli, Peterson, all these other blends. They are not these other blends, all these other factories that can produce a good quality pipe consistently well. And the high end market, for those people that go for that, that's what, this much of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tiny little sliver. That it's hard to do. And I think that's why there's very few people that make a living doing this.
Yeah.
And those are the ones I think that you can come and go, because you just can't do it. It's hard to survive at it. For me, also, not being a young guy, being an old gray-haired guy, although you look grayer than me.
Yeah,
Jeez,
we'll keep going.
the whiter beard. You're going full Gandalf over there, right? I'm not like working on my career. I'm not going anywhere else. This is it. I don't have any career ambition. I'm at this is where I want to be. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to be in charge of anything. I suck at that. I'm a terrible manager. I have no business managing anyone other than myself. So that'll never happen. I'm never going to be vice president of a college or anything. That would just be a disaster. So this is it. And then I will retire from teaching at some point, and this will just be something that I do, and hopefully get to do it for a long time.
Well, cool. I hope so too, man. And one day I'll get that 9mm pipe from you.
Or I'll buy one.
Slap your stamp on it. I don't know.
I'll just scratch out Savinelli. It looks like a Savinelli, but it's not.
Yeah, it's. I took inspiration from the 628 shape.
628. There we go. So that's the shape you like. All right.
No. So, kind of an off-topic question, but I kind of see something in the shot that I might know what it is. Is that that headset? Is that a HyperX Cloud Stinger?
I don't know exactly which one it is, but it's like a gaming headset, but I bought it for YouTube.
Yeah, I have that exact headset, but I bought it for gaming.
I tried some online gaming, and I like video games, but I found getting clobbered by 13-year-olds wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Especially smack talking 13-year-olds.
Yeah, I can't even do that.
I had I had one of those like shooting games I was playing where you could do some online competition. It was Halo or one of those. Because I had Halo, Call of Duty, all that. And I remember getting in this thing and, where you're in a survival thing. But basically everybody in the group just ganged up on me because they all knew each other. And so their whole goal was to kill me right away. And they were all like 13 and they killed me within like seconds. And then they're all typing messages to me. You loser, I'm like,
yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, I have most of my friends that I used to play video games with back in the day have dropped off of that, as more kids and family obligations come along. But I've always, kept with video gaming as a hobby. I consider it like watching TV or watching a movie, in my free time. But I have one friend that I still play online games with, and we don't do the online chat we talk to each other, but that's it. We don't get into the game chat because that is what it is, man. You get in these shooter games that kids don't really have any business playing, but you'll just hear them constantly.
Yeah.
Like, you camper, you freaking camper. And they've got these little voices like this. They're like 8-year-old boys, And we used to make fun of them. We'd be, they'd say something to us and we'd be like, Mom, can I have some peanut butter and jelly? And just kind of try to taunt them like that. We had one kid that got in our group and was trying to show us this new map or whatever. And he was like, so you guys are pretty new. You want me to give you some tips? And I mean, we're in our 40s and we just felt like idiots, We just laughed and laughed about that. We're like, yeah, give us some tips, man.
I like playing. I still actually enjoy like playing the Xbox. Like I don't do it very often because I'm too busy making pipes now, but it's my new hobby. But I like the sports games on there. I like playing the Madden football and on the computer though, my favorite games were the real-time strategy games. Like I liked there was a few of the war games, Panzer General. Oh, those were fun.
I really got into a game called World of Tanks from
I remember that one.
I think it got started in like 2010 and I hit it maybe around 2011 to 2015. I played that a pretty good bit. And they got me into researching tanks and this, that, and the other. But I came to find that a lot of the guys that play that game are like in their 60s, like late 50s, 60s, into their 70s even. that were
Wow.
tankers. You know, they were on tank crews, and they know everything about tank specs and, you know, guns and ammunition and all that stuff. And I you know, I couldn't keep up with them. They would start calling actual like field commands to each other. And I had no idea what they were talking about. But that was a
Type
very
an answer.
specific game type. Well, man, we're at an hour and 40 minutes almost. So
Do I
we'll
get
probably.
paid?
What's that?
I said, do I get paid?
Yeah, I'll split that. Somebody gave us $5. Oh man, I am at 7% battery life, so we are going to have to kill it here in just a few minutes.
All right.
Let me
Well,
see.
thank you for having me.
Oh no,
Yeah,
man.
anytime you want to BS. And someday I'll eventually make you a pipe once, but I'm not making you one until I can do it well.
All right.
Because I don't want to send you something that's junky.
Fair play.
I think
Fair
that's
play.
fair.
I never
All
told
right. Thank you, Eddie.
what I was drinking, but this is
Woo!
Bell's Incessant. This is a new IPA. But it's gone now. It's time for another. So yeah. Thanks for coming on, and you guys, thanks for hanging with us.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All right. Bye, Ed. I'll see you next time.